I think no matter what year you're in, whether it's 2025, 2030, or whatever it may be, I think everybody is still going to question if Uber Eats is even worth working for. Now, I want to kind of help narrow down that decision because for those that do not know, my name is Ash and I'm a fellow gig worker here on the South Shore of Montreal, Quebec. And currently, I work primarily for Uber Eats, for DoorDash, and for Skip the Dishes. Now, I would say that yes, I am doing part-time schedule, but I'm doing part-time 5 days a week. So I can say that at least having a senses towards Uber Eats, I can kind of help you out to guide you in that direction and see if we can answer some of your questions. Now, when it comes to is it worth it, it comes down to a few different things. Like, first of all, is it worth it to work for Uber Eats if you want to have your very own schedule? Yes. I will still say that till this day. Now, if you're looking to have your very own schedule and you enjoy being out on the roads a lot and you want to do this full time, this is still going to be up your alley. For myself, it is not. If I have the option of doing this just full time and only Uber Eats, for myself personally, I would not be doing it. And that's because in my market, I find the average that I'm making per hour differs, honestly, between $15 to $20 an hour. And there used to be a time years ago where you used to be able to get $25, $30 an hour. Now, you can, but what ends up happening is, let's say peak hours, let's say I'm working from 5 to 9 in the evening. From 5 to 6, 5 to 7, I can sometimes make $40, which is fantastic. But it's the other hours after that where sometimes it tapers down so little to the point that my average per hour ends up being about $15 per hour. So if that's the case scenario, how can I empathize towards doing gig work full time for Uber Eats if it's not exactly the way that I would want it to be in my market? Now keep in mind, if you are in a different market, it could go a different way. Maybe there's a lot of orders going on with Uber Eats that makes it more productive and you make more per hour. But at least in my area, that's not the case scenario, but scheduling is still good. So by scheduling, for me, for example, I'm a mom and I am a part-time content creator. So I need a schedule where I can go out around my son's hours, but additionally I can work on my content. So by far, Uber Eats is hands down something you want to go for if you want to have your own flexible schedule. Now, when it comes to money, again, it's different because it's based on a per market location. Now, I do get it in my comments a lot, and I would love to help people with this, but if you're in Toronto, if you're in, Calgary, Alberta, if you're in Vancouver, BC, unfortunately, I can't pinpoint those markets. I get asked all the time, okay, so how is it here? How is it there? I don't know. I don't live there. I don't work there to know. But hopefully, if there's individuals in the comments that are mentioning it in their area, you can get an idea. That's why I love YouTube videos. It's not just because I can communicate, but others can communicate in the comments. So when it comes to trying out a market to see if it's going to work for you, the South Shore, for example, for me, I'm averaging about 15 to 17 an hour. But maybe if I go to someplace like Laval, maybe I'll hit 22 an hour. I don't know. I do more of a sub-region location. And that's because I've never been one to want to distance off into the far end. But I can still do this enough that within YouTube and Amazon, I can still kind of make a living. So that's the off part about this, is that for some individuals, they can make a really good living. And then for other ones, they can't. But Uber Eats still makes it worth it for me to give them that point factor because they're still the number one in my market area today, based on popularity. So if Uber for the last 3 years stays popular in my market, how can I not give them the checkpoint of still being a very popular gig app? And apparently statistics shows amongst Canada that 1 out of every 4 individuals are ordering off the gig apps every single day. Like, it's not like I'm ordering every day, but 1 out of 4 people is the ratio that is ordering per day. So if that's the case scenario, that's pretty good odds in our favors that signing up for companies like Uber Eats or even DoorDash or such is still profitable. But with Uber Eats, I find across the board for many locations they're becoming the more popular ones. Even in locations where DoorDash used to be more popular, it has taken over when it comes to Uber Eats. Now, things that you do need to be mindful about when it comes to Uber. I've stated this in numerous videos, but if it's the first time you're coming across this channel, I have stated it that the one thing Uber does that is very unfortunate is they allow for tip baiting to happen. And for tip baiting, and that is when the tip is revoked 1 hour after drop off. Now, what we classify as tip baiting here in the gig community is when you have done the job, you have done good, everything has went well, there's no indication why your tip should be revoked, but it gets revoked 1 hour after drop off. That is something Uber Eats still allows across the board, which is something DoorDash and even Skip the Dishes does not. So if you're not too keen on having your money taken away, because yes, the base rate is still $3 with Uber Eats that you would be paid without a tip, if you're not keen on that, then maybe you do not want to go in the direction of Uber Eats. Because still to this day, I can't give them the top point, which is my tips, because they have the option of removing tips. And I find that to be one of the most degrading things, considering it is a tip-oriented job. And for those that's going to say, stop bitching, you chose this line of work, I get that. But I did not choose to have a company allow customers to do that. I didn't choose that. The company chose that for me. So if I want to bitch out about it, I think it's fair play. When it comes down to Uber Eats, is it still worth it? In my opinion, yes. It is still worth it, but I will put a hard stop on full-time. And I know my full-time lovelies who go out there and make the grind and make the money. I think that's amazing. But for myself in particular, I cannot vouch for it for full-time. I will vouch for it for part-time and side hustle income, but I won't say that it's still worth it when it comes to a full-time income. But you can let me know in the comments. Put your area that you live in and put down for full-time if Uber Eats is still worth it for you. This way, like I said, it's not all about the video itself. It's about the comments too. We can help each other amongst this community, figure out if gig work is still worth it, and specifically find out if it's still worth it with Uber Eats.